Yeah, so I was going to ask you about that as the agent thing. Okay, so you represented the most famous case that I know of is you represented IceFrog.
Yeah.
And so IceFrog was sort of the creator of Dota. I mean, I guess he
There were
took
a
it
few,
over.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, he helped make it really big. So he was like sort of the last guy in the process who really grew it huge, um, and and so that made it really easy to pitch him because he had the numbers on his side.
How did you find him though? Because nobody knew who he was at the time. I mean, he was until recently, fairly recently, there was that lawsuit between Blizzard and Valve when his name got revealed. But he was totally anonymous.
I was cracking out on the fucking mod. I mean, I was a fan, and so I had been working with a company called Orion Multisystems where we were creating these systems with fuck tons of CPUs in them, and they needed a system, like a rack mount to run their forums off of. And so I asked the guys if they could spare a system, and they could, and so we donated that to running the forums. And then we ended up just talking, and then he said, I'm graduating from school with my electrical engineering degree, and I've been maintaining this thing for a while. But he told me about some of the stuff that goes into maintaining this shit, and I was like, holy fuck, this is way harder than I thought it was that you were actually doing. And I realized this guy's a one-off. Like, he's fucking miracle sauce. And I said, hey, look, I don't honestly know if this is going to make a difference, but I think if I helped you out as a rep that I could get you more than you're being offered. He had an offer from Riot Games. And I said, I think I could beat that because it doesn't sound as good as we could get. And the terms we ended up getting were just fucking insane. He didn't end up working for Riot. He had a competing offer from another company and called S2 Games at the time, then Frostburn. They did the Heroes of New Earth game, which again, it was just a Dota clone. And but yeah, the terms we got were just nuts because, and not because I was some brilliant rep. I don't think just because he was so fucking talented, and just having another person in the room to, like sing your praises and to like try to find a couple of bidders just makes so much difference when you've got that much talent. But it really, that's when I ran into how how upset people get by seeing devs with individuals with reps, because they're like, who the fuck do you think you are? With prima donna having some sort of rep for yourself or whatever. And so there's a jealousy factor, I think, a little bit, and also kind of I'm not used to this thing. And so I realized the talent you've got to have has got to overcome the stigma of bringing in a rep, because otherwise because there is friction there.
Do you think that landscape's changed a bit? Because I know, I remember early 2000s, agents were kind of a new thing, and CA was getting into it, and I feel like they've changed their model of how they represent games, and they're still heavily involved. But even yourself, I mean, do you still do agent work, or
no, not like that?
Okay,
but
is that a bygone era of agency type of stuff now?
Again, I just you should really think of me as Forrest Gump, like following the feather through the random things, right? I was a fan of this game, and I did it, and I realized, wow, this makes a huge difference. And I tried it a couple other times with a coder you and I both know, and with an old friend of mine, a brilliant coder who worked at crack.com. And it was much less successful because they were much less like holy shitful as talents than IceFrog. Not that he was a much better coder, more so that he was a much more marketable developer. And so that's partly when I realized that there's a lot of friction in this, and it's one of them I didn't do the competitive bid thing, and the other one I was running actually into Hollywood issues where I was repping a coder to work in visual effects, and he's like, look, coders don't get reps in visual effects. It's not our culture, and this is offensive to us. So yeah, you kind of run into stuff like this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just never quite understood how agents work for game developers because I know of a few super famous game developers that have had agents, but they still have a 9 to 5 job. So I don't really understand how that works.
Yeah, so
film directors are like free agents. You have to negotiate every time they make a movie, but some of these people work for major studios but have agents.
you should ask them that. The guys at CAA, they would better say. But my sense was that the kind of gigs they were getting for those guys were like consulting, like creative consulting gigs, which are much easier to like hook up than like setting them up with a full-time job. And that the full-time job thing, I think, is just a very, there's already recruiters for that, and so you're kind of competing with them, and the recruiters usually work on the employer side of the deal. So you didn't really have someone repping you. And so, I think according to the law, I probably did this illegally. Thank God for the statute of limitations, but I think it's like 17 or 18 years ago now. But so I don't think you're supposed to rep someone like that.
Really?
And, yeah, not without a license, not without an agent license in California. And I honestly don't know.
Interesting. I thought it was more of a film union thing. Like, I don't know if that applies to games.
I don't think it's a union thing. I think it's anyone you want to represent for employment. I think you need to be a licensed agent.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
It's a good thing it's been a while.
Yeah, exactly.